you are listening to the Kinetic Man podcast. I'm Stuart.
And I'm David, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living a life defined by uncommon action that is full of purpose, adventure, and meaningful relationships. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours, and together achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to leave the potential life behind and become kinetic men.
And one of the things that David and I love most about podcasting is the incredible conversations and the advice that we get from our guests. Honestly, I truly believe it's the one thing that has made the most impact on me for my personal growth. And what you may not realize is that David and I oftentimes get a ton of free advice before and after the show, spanning from different topics between investing, parenting advice, how to create an epic marriage, health, tips and tricks, and much, much more. Unfortunately for you listeners, we've been a bit selfish and we haven't shared all of that sage advice with you guys, but that's coming to an end. Over the past 3 months, we've started to ask and record this one question to all of our podcast guests. What is the one action step that you recommend taking to level up in your business and in your personal life? And the answers have been life-changing. So the question is, would you be interested in hearing those same answers? We're calling it Leveling Up with TKM, and we want to share it with you. Only for $2 a month, you'll get 4 recorded videos every month in your inbox with those answers to the question that we just asked. And here's how you get it. Go to thekineticman.com/level up. Again, that's thekineticman.com/level up. Sign up today, get those videos, and go take uncommon action. All right, gentlemen, how's it going?
Excellent.
Doing amazingly, Stuart. Doing amazingly.
Amazingly. I am excited about this topic, ending the epidemic of loneliness. Did you guys read the Surgeon General's report that came out this year, didn't you?
I did not, but I feel like we've talked about it with at such great length and in such amazing detail. I feel fully briefed up, man. I feel fully briefed up.
You feel fully briefed up? Well,
yeah.
We did.
In the excerpts, we read a number of excerpts or I read a number of excerpts. Did you read like page 1 to 80?
I did, actually. I did.
Nice.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
That's a lot of toilet time.
Well,
I mean,
what I thought it was interesting
80
because it ties really well into our messaging for the Kinetic Man. And I feel like, at least I have experienced some of it, in the stage of transition, especially David, before like you moved to Colorado and I wasn't plugged in as much, or really intentionally trying to plug into the community as much. And so I felt some of this, as a professional military, officer with multiple other businesses and jobs and trying to create income and passive income streams and building wealth and just running, right? Just like hustling, grinding. It kind of gets lonely at the top, both in the military world and the entrepreneurial business world.
Yeah, and I would say it gets lonely everywhere, right?
That's true.
We had done, this was actually a webinar we did a couple weeks ago, last week, whatever it was, and super well attended, record-breaking number of dudes showed up. That is completely false. We had, but I will say one thing that did happen is one of the individuals that showed up, he completely opened up, and this is why we're recording this again. Is we did not want to use a recording of the webinar and make it public, because one of the guys that showed up, he just opened up and he started sharing about how this was his life, right? Like he was experiencing this very much. And I think the reason why the U.S. Surgeon General felt it necessary to release an advisory on this topic is because it is ubiquitous. It is a thing. And men in particular are impacted to a great level. And again, to your point, I love how it ties with, it's almost just validation for what we're doing at the Kinetic Man, right? Like this did not exist when we started the Kinetic Man, but we knew in our hearts, we knew in our souls, we knew in our relationships, we knew in our interactions that this is truth. It just a couple of years later came out in a report that, the data the data validates exactly how we felt when we started the Kinetic Man. And so I think that, just very generally speaking, most men now in particular, this obviously impacts women as well, but most men in particular just this is such a present part of their life that I think it's so ingrained. Most men don't even realize how lonely they truly are. Like that's how bad it is, right? It's like
Yeah.
a cancer that's eating you up inside and you don't know you've got it yet. And you're just living with it, but you don't even know. That's what this is. It is a cancer living in, again, we're talking mostly dudes. We're talking about dudes, but it is living in them and they're so used to it and have adjusted to it that they don't even know it's there.
It's interesting you say that. And, compared to other webinars that we've done, we send out a ton of invites, and we get a decent amount of people that both register and join, depending on the topic. This one, I think, is a topic well worth discussing. And we got, like you said, way less people that showed up and really way less people that registered, because I don't think people really even think it's an issue. And the Surgeon General's report, this advisory, actually says that like it's a major issue. It's worse than like, the tobacco challenge of our healthcare system, mental illness, depression, isolation, heart disease. Like there's so many things that are just as big of an issue, but a lot of it is caused because of loneliness and isolation. So let's dive into this a little bit. The Surgeon General put out this report, an advisory in May of this year in 2023. And it's pretty, like I said, it's pretty long. It's 80 pages, but it talks a lot about like how much impact loneliness and isolation has on your health. Um, you know, so we felt that, like we said, we internally kind of came up with solutions, and then we created this mastermind, and we created a lot of things that we feel are steps to take to defeat this idea of loneliness and isolation. Goo, do you want to kind of talk on some of the things that, and for the listeners, this is going to be coming out on a podcast for the listeners. We're redoing basically the slideshow as well that was in webinar format, and we'll post this on YouTube. So if you want to check out the slideshow and photos that we're speaking to, go to our YouTube channel. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, I love this slide because it just shows dudes doing awesome stuff together, right? We're doing ropes courses, climbing mountains, shooting arrows with Olympic level archery trainers. We're around a table, right? We're around a table. And what I would offer is that this is a picture of what life absolutely could be. It doesn't have to be the exception. And what's fascinating to me is that it is the exception at this point, right? It is a significant problem that this is the exception. But what I love about it, because you can always just use, you can highlight the negative impacts of whatever. But I was just talking to somebody today about what are you replacing it with? Like the least effective way to change a habit is to focus on that bad habit. Be like, I just don't want to do this. And I'm going to use my willpower to stop looking at porn, to stop eating poorly, to stop doing it. No, replace it with something better that you desire more. And it's actually not that hard. Most of these things were set up with phone calls and maybe some texts and create an environment to have this become a reality, right? Even just, there's a picture of just you and me. Just that habit of hanging out, right? Just that habit of hanging out is something that can change your life for the better or the worse. And, even with somebody like Stu, you can do things like this,
which is
and make
awesome.
Which is awesome.
That's right. Stephen, what do you think, man? Have you had, what's your thoughts on kind of just the experience so far within Kinetic Man and kind of building the tribe and not being in isolation?
I mean, I think I am in the middle of it. I have spoken previously on the podcast here that it's something that my wife and I have identified for both of us, that I'm 36, she's a couple years younger than me, and we really love where we live. We love our job and kind of the life that we're building around us, but community is going to have to be something that is really intentional. And we have struggled to build it, even putting in that intentionality. But my hot take here is that I know that all three of us being military, we've got a lot of military people listening as well. Here's my hot take that I learned after I left the military and we started talking about this. In the military, we say we have a lot of friends, but when trying to combat this epidemic of loneliness, friends who live in other places don't count. And that is hard to rectify as a military person, because at least for me, and I think for most of us, many of our closest friends do not live near us anymore. At best, they were with you on an assignment for 3 years. One of my absolute closest friends, Bill, he and I got lucky, and we actually kind of re-intersected on a later assignment, and we had an amazing couple of years together being in the same unit. But he and I live in different cities again, and the reality is, like, nobody will ever replace that relationship. However, he and I have spoken about this. Like, we need people that are nearby, that are in our community, in our village, in our little neighborhood, whatever it is, and you have to be intentional about that. But I think that a lot of military folks, they take a cop out and they say, I've got friends that would come and fly across the country and help me at the drop of a hat. Well, that's great, except that they don't help you on a Tuesday morning when you're gone and dragging the trash cans out from your garage. So
Yeah, dude, that's super interesting. It's I think David and I have a pretty unique situation where, we were college roommates for all 4 years, and we stayed in touch. And then, similar to what you and Bill had, like, we actually reunited, got stationed at the same location in Italy. Families kind of got together, hung out. We went on trips together, and then those conversations started about building businesses together. And then my last duty station, I had a few options on where to go. And I intentionally chose to come to Colorado because David and I had been talking about where we were going to end up, and Colorado for him was that location. And I could either have chosen Colorado, San Diego, Texas, and I chose Colorado with the idea that I had family there, and two, I knew David would be coming back there. And now David and I, we share office space together. We go and hang out and do all these fun things together every single week. And like, that alone has been for me life-changing, life-giving, to have that in my life. But you're right. I think a lot of military people specifically don't have that, and they bank on having dudes like they can just kind of get on the phone and talk to fill that bucket, which it's not going to do.
Well, one of my favorite things that you mentioned there, Stu, is a level of forethought and intentionality.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was just talking to a guy about, no joke, an hour ago, was this idea that when we move forward in our life, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, it requires intentionality, and it requires us to make decisions so that we're not always reactionary, to include making friends. And for whatever reason, this popped in my head, but I'm like, hey, dude, you go to the gym. This guy likes to work out and lift. Like, if your goal is to bench 400 pounds and you're going to the gym, it's amazing you're going to the gym. Unfortunately, you're in the squat rack, and in our minds, we think that going to the gym and getting in the squat rack is still making progress. It's the difference between busyness and productivity. It's the difference between a reactionary life and intentionality, right? Yes, you're doing a bunch of good things and everybody around you is going to celebrate you. Yes, you're at the gym. Look at him. He's in the squat rack. But your goal is to bench more. And what are you doing to get to that end, right?
Yeah.
If your goal is to bench more, then I'm all about leg days, but you should probably get under a bench. And so it's just fascinating to me how even in our relationship, not even, especially in our relationships, we just think, and as we get older, we just think like people are going to show up. Dude, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I said, honey, one of my goals this year is a level of intentionality to plug into our community and to make new friends. Like, I want to make friends. I want to get surrounded by some dudes. I talked to a guy this morning. What does that look like? I called a guy this morning. I called Ben, and I'm like, hey, dude, I'm here now. This is my community. I would like to invest in this relationship. And I think that there's amazing things we could do together, like business wise and all that kind of stuff. But I think step one, I just want to enjoy your company. And I'll tell you, that sounds there's probably some dudes listening right now that are like, that just sounds weird, man. I can't tell a guy.
That sounds
really
scary.
weird. I'll tell you what, he received it extremely well. Everybody likes being told, hey, I want to invest in you because I think you're a really dope dude. But it also is very easy for me now. Super easy. Like I will literally, if I see a dude walk by and like we have something in common, we chit chat, like I'll just tell him straight up, like, dude, you're awesome. Like I'd like to spend more time with you.
It's true. He has restraining orders that say that too.
Yeah, that's true. Like I'm not allowed within, certain business centers that are male dominated professions. I'm not allowed to go there. They're like, dude, that guy wants to be friends. Oh my gosh.
Guy wants to give out 20-second hugs.
But in all seriousness, and I went to somebody the other day. Yes, I can't remember who it is. This is how often this happens now, but it was at a soccer game. So one of my kids' soccer games. And I'm like, hey, dude, you know about the 20-second hug, right? He's like, what are you talking about? And don't touch me. I'm like, nope, this is happening right now. You need to experience this. I'll do 10. Just tell me how you feel after 10. But again, it's a level of intentionality and it's a level of being willing to put yourself out there. Dude, you're going to get rejected. And that's fine because all the times you don't. And I say that and I actually I can't think of anybody who's like straight up rejected me and like, nah, dude, I don't want to pursue a relationship and friendship with you. Right. And if they do, like, awesome, check that off the list. Right. But these pictures, and Bill's in one of these as you're talking, like his head's poking in the bottom left-hand corner there, that's Bill. But Bill, I didn't know Bill, but through connecting with Steven, I didn't know Steven. Right. And through connecting with Steven and growing our relationship, and then his circle comes into my circle. And now I know Bill and I talked to Bill and I've had deep, beautiful, profound conversations with Bill, completely independent of Stu or Steven. Like that's how this works. You just have to take a step. You have to be willing to take a step.
Yeah, dude. So speaking of steps, the webinar that we did was called 3 Steps to Ending that Loneliness Epidemic. And so we've come up with 3 steps. We've come up with action items that we do on a regular basis. And so the first one is being intentional. I mean, just the intentionality, if that's one word to take away, is intentionality. Being intentional of calling friends and inviting friends and hanging out with friends, right? So one of our retreats, we had Brandon Jones, a guest speaker, come and talk about this idea of creating joy and happiness. And one way to do that, the scientific proven method to bring joy, is to call people and tell them what you're grateful for. And that alone has a major impact. So we actually have put it onto our calendars. We put it onto the Kinetic Man calendar to call a friend and tell them what you're thankful for every Thursday. We call it Thankful Thursday. So just that one piece, spend 30 minutes to an hour on the phone once a week and call a friend to tell them, that you're thankful for them, and just catch up, see how they're doing. Call an old high school buddy, college buddy, military guys, call that buddy that you deployed with. Step 2, David, you want to speak on step 2? The phone.
Before we move on to step 2 though,
yeah,
I also want to add a caveat to step 1. There's different levels of varsity here, right? So you have your kind of your elementary, pick up, maybe a little JV, call somebody. That just that level is more than most people do. So pat yourself on the back. Amazing. The varsity level of that is, it has to be someone local. Like if you need to ask yourself a question. If I'm going to call a friend, if I'm going to hang out with a friend, if I want to set an hour aside to be with a friend, do I have to make a phone call? Right? Does it have to be via phone, or can we meet somewhere? Is there somebody in my life that I can be with physically right now? And if the answer is no, which in a lot of cases it is, especially with military guys being transient, then that tells you exactly where you need to put effort today. Exactly where you need to put effort today. And that is going to make a friend. right? Go to make a friend. And the opportunities to make a friend are a lot more than you realize. Whether you work in an office space, if you work at home, that's fine. If you have kids and they have sports, that is ample grounds to say hello to somebody. If you have young kids and you go to a park, say hi to a dad. Like there's so many opportunities to do it. If you're on LinkedIn, you're in the socials, do a search. Lonely dudes in Denver looking for a friend. I don't know if that'll
I'm
do
not
it.
sure if anybody puts that on their profile.
But it is absolutely it is absolutely something that you can go to like a dads of webpage, right? A dads of your city, a dads of Lakewood. There's going to be dudes there. And even if it's one dude, like meet that guy. Hey man, love to take you to coffee. Just want to hang out. Love to meet you in person. Dude, I met more people on LinkedIn, just dude dates from LinkedIn, guys I've never met. And most of those guys, because I'm intentional with my search and kind of interacting with them, most of those guys are guys that are now like buddies, like cool dudes I like to hang out with, right? So it's not that hard, because I'll tell you, you have to get past this barrier, because the emotions you're feeling that are keeping you from taking action, doing these things, are exactly what's keeping that other dude from doing it. So if you're the one that breaks it down and says hello, if you're the one that's willing to take that action, usually what happens is it's reciprocated. That guy now has, oh, it's okay for me to, yeah, of course, I'd love to meet for coffee. Awesome. Let's do it. Right. And so there's just the power of just saying hello, being the one that initiates that. Be that guy, be the hello guy. And I'll tell you, it will open the door to so many things. Steven, go ahead.
I think it was it Ben Kalloy that we had on the podcast, and he said that the quality and quantity of your relationships is directly related to the number of hellos you use.
That's right.
And that has always stuck with me, because I am a dad who will stand in a very crowded playground of other dads and not speak a word to anybody else. I'm very content in that place. But guess what? That does not accomplish my wife's goals of making more friends, right? And then I just love, like, here at TKM, we wear this mantle proudly, right? Like, you got to be the weird one. Like, get out there, be the weird one, take the uncommon action, because every other dad at that playground needs friends too. And they're all just standing around trying to avoid eye contact, just like you are.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of dads standing around the playground with their arms crossed, just looking at their kids, like peeking over at the other dads, just like kind of like seeing if they're looking too, like who's going to be the one? Who's going to be the one that says hello?
Hey, and I'll leave you with one thought on this. This is something that struck me recently, and it's always been there, but I've just, for whatever reason, not noticed it. And now I notice it all the time. If you do have kids, especially boys, go observe them in play. Go observe that, especially the younger ones. Go observe what they do. I have a first grader right now, and even the 10-year-old, the fifth grader. Go look at the young ones, dude. They can't keep their hands off each other. Like, they just can't be next to each other and not like touching and hugging. And dude, it's super sweet. It's absolutely adorable. But what really hit me recently was that is more natural. What they're doing, they don't have the years that I have of conditioning and just like don't do that. Men don't cry, this, that, and the other, right? They don't have the years of I'll just call it corrupting of the essence of human connection. They're young, they're innocent, they're pure, and dude, they're all over each other. It's normal for them to hug and to touch, and it's absolutely fascinating. But it really struck me that that's more natural. I should be aiming for that more. And so I'm justified on my touching and hugging and being touchy with other dudes, right? Because that's what they truly want. They just don't know it. but in all seriousness, it has been eye-opening to me to observe that, and then to recognize how far the other way we've gone to build these walls so intentionally around us that it's so hard to break down. But again, the more you break it down, the more holes you poke in that, it's so much easier to let that guard down in the future, right? And dudes will, like, literally, they will sometimes a hello turns into like that guy just like, blah, this is my life. This is, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, but awesome, right? Awesome.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So the three of us are currently reading a book together called The Common Rule by Justin Whitmore Early, and talks about keystone habits. And one of those keystone habits is putting the phone away for an hour a day, and to be present with your family, to be present with your kids, your loved ones, your friends, whatever that is. And so that's step two of this journey that we're on is no kidding, putting the phone down. And on the slide here, there's a picture of a man and a woman on a date, and the man's literally just like staring at his phone, and the woman's like kind of staring off in space, like sounding like looking like annoyed and
Nah,
wanting to talk
man,
to him.
she's looking at some other dude. That's what she's doing.
But it's funny because David and I have talked about this, like where like we've gone out to dinner with our families, and we'll look across, look across the room, and like, no kidding, there are families, entire families sitting at the dinner table at a restaurant, all of them staring at a phone and not talking to each other. And it's more common today than ever before. So one of
Yeah,
the
dude.
things, go ahead.
It is, and I'll tell you real quickly on this one. It's different to turn it off than it is to just silence it or put on vibrate or maybe put in another room. Any of those things, for me, it's different. I want to speak for you. You guys are listening are probably vastly more disciplined than I am in this. But if the phone is on, even if I have it plugged in, silent, and it's on, it's in another room. When I walk by that room or when I walk by where its vicinity is, what do you do? Be honest. What do you do? Oh, I wonder if I miss a text, right? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. You tap it and check on it.
100%.
As you walk by.
You tap it, right? There's probably an app. There should be an app that tells you how many times a day you tap your phone from sleep to tap. I think it'd be fascinating. I think there's something
Apple has that. They have, it's on the settings. Like you go and see how many times you've touched it today. Yeah. It's like, I think it's like in the thousands pretty regularly.
It'd be eye-opening, I'm sure. But so there's a big difference in turning it off because, for me, like it's annoying. I don't like turning my phone off because it's annoying. I'm anticipating turning it on and it goes through the cycle and it goes through this and it takes, oh my gosh, it's going to take 1 minute to boot up. And like that minute, is that exceeds my threshold, but turning it off is critical. And there's another thing with turning it off. Note the feelings of anxiety and like literally appendage removing sensations you have when you turn it off. And that is a great indicator. If you're self-aware enough and you're brave enough to do this, it'll be a great indicator for you to have an environment to admit your addiction, to be like, wow, this is next level. Like this may be a problem. The anxiety I'm feeling right now from this little device nothing should have that power over my life outside of like my faith, my kids, and my family, whatever it is. It shouldn't be this. It shouldn't be this. And so acknowledge those feelings. They're very real. And I'll tell you the other thing, just like saying hello now, dude, I like hunger to turn it off. Like, I'm like, oh, dude, is it time to turn it off yet? Like, I welcome it because my wife knows, like anybody who needs to know knows that like the phone's going to be off and you can't get me. Like it just is. You call a neighbor. Hopefully there's not an emergency, but we made it through millennia as human beings without being reached by a cell phone, and somehow the human race survived. It survived and thrived, right? So we can do that. Get back to that. I'll tell you, you will start to welcome and desire it, almost like a workout, right? To turn it off. It's a great thing, but just get through those feelings, acknowledge them, and get through them.
Yeah. So the second step, the calendar level change, is literally put it on your calendar. We have a time block on our calendar. It says like, put the phone away, turn the phone off, put the phone down, dude, and be present. Whether that's, so for me, actually I have two time spots now. I have a morning time slot from like 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning, because my wife like was getting angry at me while looking at the phone while trying to make my kids breakfast and get them out the door and get them ready for lunches and all that kind of stuff. So I turn off in the morning, and then at dinner, right after school, go out and play. And then, getting dinner ready and sitting down at the dinner table, turn the phone off as well. Another thing that we've talked about, Goody, I know that this annoys you tremendously, is even when you're just having conversations with people, right? Like if you're having to have a conversation with somebody and they're literally like looking at their phone at the same time while trying to have a conversation, that's annoying. Like Goody's called me out before and just be like, "Hey, I'll wait. I'll wait until you're done with whatever you're doing there, and then we can talk." So put that into your thought process too. Is like, are you having your phone, staring at your phone, trying to multitask, do multiple things while not being present with the person that's trying to have a conversation with you?
Well, and without getting called out, like think about it beforehand too, because nobody likes being called out. And even now, like you're so used to it, but I'm sure there's still a slight annoyance when I'm like, dude, I'll just wait till you're done. But what's really effective, think about how the other person feels.
Yeah.
Right. And if they're not, like, I would consider myself to be blunt enough to be like, hey, dude, I'll just wait till you're done. And that awkwardness there, like I live in that, like I'm completely comfortable with that. But
Yeah,
not
you
a
like
lot of
that.
people are comfortable enough to tell you. And I'll follow it up and be like, hey, dude, I told my daughter this the other day. I said, hey, I just want you to know it hurts my feelings when I'm talking to you and you look at your phone. Right. So I just tell her how I feel and it changes it. But if someone's not brave enough to tell you that, or I shouldn't say brave, I'm not giving myself kudos for being brave. I'm just direct. But if most people are not going to tell you that because of the awkwardness they're afraid of feeling, but that's what they feel. So just acknowledge it. When you go on your phone, when someone's talking to you or when they're trying to be with you, especially if they're not, you are sending them a message and it's hurtful. It is hurtful. The message is, you are not as important to me as whatever it is that I'm distracted by. And the chances are, if you're just completely honest with yourself, what you're distracted by is not as important as that person. It's not, unless it's like a family emergency, which by the grace of God is an exception. So every time you do that, you're hurting somebody and you're telling them they're not a priority. Well, now maybe it's not your friend, maybe it's not me and Stu, that's your kids, because they don't have the language necessarily or even the emotional intelligence to know that it hurts them. But that's what you're doing. You're telling your spouse, you're telling your kids, you're telling your best friend, you are just not important enough for me to not be distracted. That's what you're doing. So you might as well be honest about it, right? You might as well acknowledge it and be honest about it. And hopefully you're lucky enough to have a friend or a kid or a wife or a husband that'll tell you, you know what? You're just hurting my feelings. That's all there is to it. And it changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah, my kids know exactly when I'm supposed to put the phone down, and they will call me out very regularly as well. They'll be like, "Daddy, put the phone away. You're not supposed to work anymore. It's time for me to hang out with you." Like he calls especially my son. My son calls me out. "Daddy, put the phone away." So it's good. It's really good accountability. Step three of ending loneliness epidemic is again, this is intentionality of inserting yourself into community or creating community. Either one, you have to go find community and insert yourself into it, or create your own community by being the one that sends the invites. Right? TKM men, they send the invites. They create community in their neighborhoods, in their towns, and it could look very differently wherever you are. It could be a church group. It could be a men's sports league. It could be a neighborhood barbecue get together on a regular basis. Whatever that looks like, a standing lunch on a Thursday, a kinetic connecting event where we go out and do fun things every Thursday. Like whatever that is, you have to create community or insert yourself into community. Stephen, I know you have a good story about kind of creating community in your neighborhood by doing a little barbecue.
Yeah, we have awesome neighbors, and we have, again, going back to my wife and I making this choice several times when frankly it just ended up not being very convenient for us. The choice definitely could have been to not have people over to hang out or do a barbecue or a fire pit or something like that, but we kind of fall back to that conversation that we had, that choice we already made of like, we're going to do this. This is like important for us in terms of like the health of our family and our community. But having the neighbors on either side of us who've lived together probably 10 years over for a barbecue. We've lived in our house for now, I don't know, a little less than 2 years. And them having to introduce themselves to each other, and they didn't recognize, they some of them recognized each other, like they recognized the husband, they didn't recognize the wife, and it just blew me away that they had lived one door separated for 10-ish years and didn't know each other, and that, and I just thought it was crazy. I said, we're not going to be those people. I told them, I said, well, you better get used to it because we're hanging out, like we're doing it. And then we when I left the military, we threw a big party. My wife wanted to throw a big party for me leaving the military, to celebrate. And so we rented casino tables and dealers. And it was awesome. It was a serious blast. Fake money, come in. We had a competition. Basically, everyone started with $1,000, and whoever could have the biggest stack of dollars at the end of the night won a couple of bottles of liquor. And but if you went to zero, you could get more, right? But you were just out of the running for the tournament at that point. And so we had a blast, and that was about a year and a half ago. And we had kept, again, this conversation, we kept talking about it, like we've got to do something to sort of meet people. And so we decided that we're going to throw a party again for absolutely no reason. So here in Philadelphia, at least, Thanksgiving, I hadn't experienced this other places, but Philadelphia like really likes to party for Thanksgiving. So like everyone kind of comes home and goes to their parents' house or whatever. And so the evening before Thanksgiving is one of the biggest party nights in Philadelphia, I learned. And so that night where we on Canva made a little invite with some casino themed kinds of things. We're spending like about $1,000 to rent tables and dealers and all this stuff, right? Like it is an investment of time and treasure, but also we expect to have like 40 people, some people that are really close friends of ours. I got people driving in from different states, maybe coming down from Canada, right? So like seeing old friends, as well as every single person on our whole street is getting an invite. And the invite says like second annual casino night. Like we're doing this every night before Thanksgiving. Put it on your calendars. Like we're doing this. It's a community. And if I only see you once a year, I'll at least see you there. So
love that.
We're trying to.
Dude, did you get your invite come yet, or is that?
He said it was in the mail, is what I was told.
Oh, you snail mail, Steve. If one thing I'm 100% positive of, Steven did not physically mail anything.
Yeah, millennials don't do that anymore. They don't know what mail is.
They don't even know what mail is.
True. It's true. Yeah. My lawn guy still requires me to mail a check, and I'll tell you what, he very unhappily, he gets one check a year. He like sends me bills every month, and he gets one check at the end of the summer because I have to go mail it to him.
Do you even own checks?
I do. For him.
They're like 7 duty stations back. It's like some random address. I still have some from Maryland. I do have that. Dude, that's awesome. I love that intentionality, man. That's and I am looking forward to receiving my invite. I actually have a Wednesday night party myself that I'll be going to. But dude, and it's convicting me because one of the things I've been talking about for years, and I just need to do it, is a fly fishing trip, an annual fly fishing trip, like something I'm passionate about. I love it. Getting guys together. We did one for my birthday 4 years ago. And I'm like, and I was just talking to somebody the other day, a good buddy of mine. I'm like, dude, we just have to do this, man. Like we just have to pull the trigger and make this happen, because at the end of the day, like dudes will show up, people will show up, because we're starving for it, and it's going to be a great time, right? So, dude, I love that.
Hey, what was the investment that the two of you made just recently, that Goody and I came over and shared a piece of with you the other day? Where we all sit around a little campfire and create community that way. We talked about a thing that brings you joy.
Solo stove, dude. Love it. Love it. One of the best investments I've ever made, because it just attracts people. It attracts kids. It attracts marshmallows. No smoke. Super good. Super good.
It's true. I drug mine out. Actually, Goody, you inspired me. I drug mine out to the front driveway for Halloween. And my wife and kid went like walked around for Halloween, and I stayed back and gave out candy. But I drug the soul stove out. I drug a table and chairs and some adult beverages. And yeah, you're right. I magically started to collect other adults hanging around the fire, drinking beverages.
Love it. It's
Yeah,
great.
man, it's a natural invite for community. So, men specifically, if you don't have a solo stove or a fire of some sorts, put that on your Christmas list this year's create community through a solo stove or a fire pit.
I'll give you two other great ways to, because it can be hard if we just say go find a tribe or create community. That's it's hard to kind of put into action, right? So I'll give you the two different ways. One, our parents were a part of social clubs, a lot of them, right? Like our generation has sort of gotten away from that, but there's like the Rotary Club, there's bowling leagues, there's softball leagues, right? Like that was a very like, especially like the Rotary and Lions and VFW and that kind of thing was like very common for an older generation than us, but they do still exist, and you actually would be surprised at how many of them have younger folks. And I discovered that because we have a German club down the road from us that throws an awesome Oktoberfest. And my wife and I both have said the last two times we've been there, the last 2 years for Oktoberfest, like, man, they have a community pool. They have soccer fields that are awesome. They have a humongous playground. They have a beer garden every Friday and Saturday nights. And so we have said this, right? Like this is a place that like you could meet people. This is a place where people hang out, and it's the same people every week. You can go and start out not knowing anybody, and then you can kind of start to bump into regular people again and like really enjoy it. So that is one option. The second option is let's play a little Mad Libs here. 2 words into Google. First word, a hobby of yours. Second word, your town. And I promise if you hit enter that you will find a group in your local town. It doesn't matter what it is. Miniature red trains in Philadelphia, right? Like there will be a group that has to do with that meets somewhere within driving distance of you. So that's 2 ways that I know we have come across recently that you can find a group of people to start hanging out with if you really don't know where to start.
Is that what you're into? Miniature red trains in Philadelphia?
No, but I did think of that because we have like a train store. I mean, I have a 3-year-old son, right? So like full on trains, loves it.
Yeah.
And being in the Northeast here, I actually do take trains periodically, like the Northeast corridor up to Newark Airport or to New York City. And so he just loves it. And there's a train store down the road from our house, and I didn't know what it was all about. And so just the other day, actually, this past weekend, I needed to kill some time with my son. I could see my wife like just like starting to get to that point of like vibrating because like she's had enough kid time and like about to just blow her top. And so I grabbed my son and I was like, let's go on some errands. And so we stopped at the train store, and it is a true like hardcore train hobbyist store, right? And train models of every sizes. But what amazed me is that in this tiny little store that had like maybe 3 aisles and was stacked from floor to ceiling with old boxes that looked like they came straight out of the 1970s. There was like, I don't know, 10 middle-aged men in the store just like milling about. And I was like, this is, and then 2,
that's community.
It is. And downstairs, I could tell like there's one of those kind of small, skinny shops that's long. Like imagine, board game store or something like that, right? And there was a set of stairs going down that were open. Like I could see down them, but they had a little chain across it. So you couldn't, as a customer, just like walk down there. But I could see like tables down there with like big train sets set up on it.
Members
like
only, man. Members only.
Very clearly they met down there. Like it was just very obvious to me, even in the one snapshot that I could see down there. I was like, there's a train club down there. Like that's what's down there. And so that's why I thought about that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It reminds me, a buddy of mine, Dell. He was served with me in my last duty station, Navy SEAL, and he lived with us for a few months before getting out. His family had moved to Hawaii, and he was telling me that he was big into Dungeons and Dragons growing up, and he wanted to um, get his son into it. And so, like, they found a Dungeons and Dragons like club, and they started going and playing like games with his son, and it was like a
Yeah.
way that he and his son could connect and bond, and he got a lot of joy out of that. So, the world is an oyster for creating community. All right, let's move on. So we'll kind of run through these fairly quickly. I think the big piece is over about the steps to take. But in this advisory, it talks a lot about just social connection and the trends of social connection. How just it's going down every single year. On the slide here, there's a graph, multiple graphs of just showing how social isolation, social connection, household, family engagement, companionship, engagement with friends, engagement with others. It's just they're all going down. Between 2003 and 2020, it's just the time alone has increased, social connection engagement has decreased, and it has a major impact on your health. It says that lacking social connection is as dangerous as up to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which is bonkers to me. But if you really think about it, like being social forces you to be active and go out and connect. And there's just so many health benefits to being engaged socially with other people.
Yeah, and don't want to harp on this too much, but just Google it, right? Just look at impacts to health on social isolation or whatever, however you want to look at that. This is not David, Stu, and Steven talking about this so you join our mastermind and make some friends at all. This is just data. So the fact that it's better for you to smoke 15 cigarettes a day than it is to be socially isolated is crazy.
Yeah.
But this is the data. This is what it's showing, and that's just one aspect of it, right? All the different things that are substantially impacted in a positive way, a significantly positive way by having community. The opposite of that is also true. The other side of that coin is also true, right? Like there's so many things that are negatively impacted by not having it. And again, it's not the data that you should focus on. It's the acknowledgement that you fall into this in some way, in some level, you fall into this. This information, this data resonates with you, whether you acknowledge it or not. And you don't want it to be something that you find out too late, right? Because there's something you could do about it today. And that's the best part about it. That's the best part about it is, this slide just shows a quick picture of how social connection can influence your health and how it's so beneficial for you. And in all the ways that, no kidding, everything from a biological, chemical reaction within, in a healthy manner within you to have community, psychological, like all these different ways that it impacts you. Again, it goes beyond emotions or it's not that important to have friends or whatever. And it goes, no kidding, into data, into science that highlights social connections and how beneficial they are, not only for your longevity, but for your quality of life. Everybody talks about, the life expectancy is going up and people are living longer and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'll tell you, what is worse than living longer unhappy? Like, that's terrible. If I'm unhappy in the short term, I'd rather just die. Sounds morbid. I'd rather just die than prolong my unhappiness and my isolation. And there's stuff that you can do about it, but step one is acknowledging it, right? Step one is acknowledging it. And it's just very simple. Do you have any friends? Like, do you have any friends? Yes or no? And if you have one, probably not enough. And if that one is someone you have to call, strike two, right? Steven.
I was gonna say, if you're listening to this on the podcast or audio, you should pause it and Google national trends for social connection. The first Google result is like a PDF that has these 6 charts, and it is really eye opening. I found these charts to be very kind of surprising and stark. They are all down and to the right, except for the isolation one. That one is up.
That one's winning. That's the one that's
Yeah, that
winning.
was with it. Hey, did you guys? I told you guys to go watch this Netflix Blue Zone series. Did you guys watch it at all? Did you get a
No,
chance?
I didn't because Netflix has instituted their you can't steal passwords thing. And so we don't have Netflix now. I was using my parents' password.
Just want to highlight, we at TKM do not endorse the
We
stealing
don't
of Netflix
endorse
passwords.
stealing Netflix
We
passwords.
think you should pay all your bills on
That's
time.
right. So if you haven't watched Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones, it's on Netflix. It's, I think, a 5 or 6 part series. Really, really interesting. He goes into the blue zones. Blue zones are areas in the world where there are more people that live to 100 than any other area. And I thought it was really interesting that one of the primary reasons he goes and inserts himself into these locations and does a lot of research and talks to people and interviews people. And one of the main things that he has found in these blue zones is this idea of social connection. Like the people in these locations, their families, there's multi-generational families that live together. There's community, there's tribes, there's people that hang out, do life together on a regular basis. And that alone is one of the components for these people to live to 100 years old. It's a really, really interesting documentary if you haven't gone and seen it yet. All right, moving on. Goody, what have we seen as far as just the last year and a half, 2 years of kind of building out these ideas in Kinetic Man?
Yeah, it's really hard to measure, right? We've seen, and it's multifaceted. So we've seen significant individual changes in men that would not have been prompted or done in my view, because they hadn't done these things until being in community. And some of these things, it ranges from everything like reconnecting with a dad who left at when this man was a child, right? When 3-5 years old, take an effort to reconnect with that, with the biological father, just to remove a burden of not having done that, all the way to like dudes, finding faith and accepting Christ and changing their lives in ways that are absolutely fascinating. And the best part is these men are doing it. Like they are the heroes of this story. They are the ones that are building their marriages. They are the ones that are realizing the fathers that they can become. They're the ones who are making friends. They're the ones doing it. The only credit I'll give you, me, and Steven is that we created an environment. That's it. We created an environment, a place where this could happen. But the dudes that are coming in, their lives are being transformed significantly. And it's beautiful because now they have a tribe that they can share all these victories with, and we can all celebrate with them and be challenged by them to be better to be better ourselves and to grow. And dude, I'll tell you, man, like this tribe for me personally has absolutely changed my life, right? There's so many things, like even the smallest, most insignificant things that noticing my kids and how they interact and the touching and all that stuff that we were talking about earlier, being so present to actually pick up on those details, the minutia, and like who they are as people. It's very, very difficult to do that when you're trying to see a person or a kid or a friend through this device, right?
Your cell phone.
It's not a window. It's a complete door. And when you put it down, again, it's not about the cell phone. It's about the intentionality of being challenged by dudes to do something slightly different, like turn your phone off, that you pick up on treasures, that you pick up on beauty that you never would have picked up on. And for me, like observing my kid, it changed the way I looked at my kid. It changed the way I looked at him. And then it changed the way I looked at all the kids that I have the opportunity and the blessing to influence. And it changed the way I act around them and the way I encourage them and love on them and am present for them. And dude, that unlocks something pretty deep, right? And if you're doing that as a group, if you're doing that with your friends, if you're doing that in your house, if you're doing that in your place of business, I mean, we've also seen very practically, we've seen guys jump into deals with other guys in the group because they have the speed of trust now. And they're like, dude, if John says this is good, Yeah, I'll do some due diligence, but if John says it's good, he is a man of his word because he was honest in this conversation, this conversation, this conversation, this conversation. He poured into me and he loves me in this conversation, this conversation, this conversation. We have a bond. We have something special. I'm going to invest in that guy's deal, and it's going to be fun. And I'm going to make some money. All good things.
What you're speaking specifically, we have a lot of real estate investors in the tribe, and so we've seen a lot of guys investing into each other's deals, into other investment opportunities. You know, we have pitch days, and we've seen that a lot of guys are investing into each other, into their real estate opportunities, investment opportunities. So it's been pretty cool. One of the other things that's been really cool for me personally is just hearing stories and hearing through the men how they are connecting without really even our input, our initiation, how men are just connecting on a very deep level and having conversations. And every now and then we'll get some text messages or a phone call from guys that kind of validating what we're putting together. But just want to hear on the screen, if you're not watching the video, is we just got a text message from a buddy of ours not too long ago, and I'll just read it because I think it was powerful for me. He just said, "Hey dudes, just wanted to say thank you for this amazing thing that you've created. This tribe of men is awesome in the best sense of the word. So grateful to be a part of it. Outside of the curriculum, the wealth of resources and relationships readily available to each of us is something that would take significant time and energy to find outside of TKM." That was really powerful for me to get that. It was actually on a day that I was in a bad mood and a little bit discouraged. But just something like that, a simple text from another man to lift me up, started my day out really, 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 different. And so that's the type of stuff that we're doing. I want to leave with three challenges to all of the listeners that are listening to this. And it aligns with the 3 steps that we talked about. So, challenge 1, on a regular basis, reach out to a friend. Varsity level, as David puts it, is someone in person here, locally wherever you are. Reach out to that individual, call them, set up a hangout, right? A lunch date, go on a hike, go on a bicycle ride, go grab a coffee, but set a regular occurring hangout time on the calendar where you're calling somebody or in person going to hang out with somebody. So that's challenge 1. Challenge 2, set a time on the calendar every single day to turn off your phone so you can be present with the most important people in your life. That's family or friends or business partners, whenever that is, wherever that is, put it on your calendar and turn off the phone for an hour every single day. And challenge 3 is insert yourself or find or create a community of people that you can hang out with, whether that's a mastermind group, a church group, a sports league, a men's coffee dinner hangout, whatever that is. Find a tribe, say hello to people, have friends, and insert yourself and create a community there locally in person to where you can high five, hug it out, and hang it out on a regular basis. Goody, any thoughts on that?
Love it, dude. Love it. And, to be 100% clear, Stu and I prepared this, and those challenges are they're nothing for us. Like, we truly desire men to start realizing and living in the power and purpose that we believe God created them for, and to get out of just this kind of mediocre life, right? To experience the joy and the beauty of friendship, to be able to, very personally speaking, I love that tomorrow, right? That we're recording Wednesday. Tomorrow, we already have plans to go for a mountain bike ride. We've invited a bunch of dudes, but maybe nobody shows up. It's just him and I going for a mountain bike ride in Colorado, doing something super dope, super amazing, super fun. I'm doing it with my best friend. Like, that is, how do you measure that? And there's also the other side of that, is when we do our walks around this building, I'm sharing with you the deepest, most intimate things in my life that are heavy to carry, but I have somebody to offload them to. And not that you're taking my burdens and solving them, that's for Jesus, but you're somebody who can take my burdens with me and just be a resource that I can talk to, right? And so this stuff, all these challenges are to make you better, to make your life more fulfilling and more beautiful and more rich. And you can do something about it. That's the coolest thing about it. The coolest thing about it is that we've experienced it, and we're speaking from a place of expertise and knowledge and knowing and living the truth of what we're saying, right? We're living the truth of what we're saying, and we want to invite you into that. Whether we ever meet you, see you, whoever you are, inconsequential. Just do something about it. Do something. Do one of these challenges. Try it for a week. See if it doesn't change everything.
They're really not that hard. Like
They're
once
not.
you do it,
No.
it's really not that hard. You just got to take action.
And the
do
best
it.
part is you're going to start to find like you hunger for it, right?
Yeah.
You start desiring these things. You start wanting to connect with people and talk to your buddy, and you may have an amazing, beautiful conversation with your friend who you haven't talked to just by committing to talk to your friend. And maybe that conversation isn't today. Maybe that conversation is after 15 conversations or 20 conversations. You really need this life-changing conversation, and you've already laid the foundation for that to happen, right? Putting your phone down, all these different things. Like, dude, I'm telling you, I love doing these things regularly, whereas before I wasn't doing any of them, and it weren't even a part of my life. That's how easy it is just to flip it, right? Just to add it and make your life better. So giddy up, do it. Excited for you. If you need help, if you need a resource, if you need somebody, we're on LinkedIn. We're on the YouTubes. You can message us through the website or David at thekineticman.com, Stuart at the Kinetic Stewart. I don't even know.
Stuart. Yeah.
Stuart at thekineticman.com. I mean, we would love to hear from you. We would love to respond to you. We'd love to hang out. If you're here in Colorado, come to the Thursdays. There's no agenda to it. It's just hang out. Just to hang out with some awesome dudes to do some super dope stuff. Come join us.
Yeah, let me add just a few plugs. Our website, thekineticman.com. If you're locally here in Colorado with us and you want to get invited to that kind of stuff, like the mountain bike rides, we call it Thursday Kinetic Connecting. It's anywhere from a mountain bike ride to going snowboarding, get your Epic Pass, to just a coffee or a lunch, or just a hike, or just, we do just multiple different things, hangouts, locations around the Denver metro. And we've even gone down to Colorado Springs a few times. If you're in Colorado, go to our website, thekineticman.com. And there's a big banner at the very top, and you can click on that and put your info in, name and email address, and we'll just add you to our invite list. And we send out a calendar invite, giddy up. We're starting some new kinetic connecting events in other locations. Some of our TKM members, coaches, are starting kinetic connecting events in other locations. So we've created a meetup for that. It's Kinetic Man of Storehouse 310 on meetup.com. We'll put a link in the show notes for that. I think the first one's going to be in Kansas City. So be on the lookout for that. You're obviously listening to our podcast, the Kinetic Man podcast. Continue to get plugged in and subscribe to that. And then the last thing is very new. It's called the Manifesto. Stephen is the person behind that. We're on issue 2 that just came out today. This is on a Wednesday, and it's just bite-sized little bits of information, less than a 3-minute read, and it's just information and topics, action steps, advice on all the things that we're talking about inside the Kinetic Man Mastermind, inside the Kinetic Man podcast. And you can subscribe to that as well. You can go to thekineticman.com/newsletter and get yourself on that list to get the manifesto that comes out every other week. Goody. Love you, brother. I'm so happy and so fulfilled. And I feel like we're living a life of purpose by doing this stuff. I hope men get this message, and I hope men take action to put some of this stuff into their life.
Amen. Amen. Love you, bro.
Love you, bro. Go take uncommon action.
See ya.
Hey, before we let you go and tackle the day, we wanted to tell you about a new product coming out called the Manifesto. It's a newsletter. It's free. It comes out twice a month, and we give actionable steps, insights, and inspiration to help you on your journey to becoming a better man. We aim to be the highest value per minute email in your inbox every time. So go check it out. You can go to thekineticman.com/newsletter. Again, that's thekineticman.com @kineticman.com/newsletter and sign up for the manifesto. It is going to be awesome. See you.
Thank you for listening to the Kinetic Man podcast. If you are growth-minded, community-focused, and willing to take uncommon action to redefine success and live an abundant life, visit our website at www.thekineticman.com to see all the ways we could connect.
And on our website, you can find more information on everything we're doing, like joining our meetup page to get the details on our webinars and our local Thursday gatherings here in Colorado. From our site, you can also find more information on and sign up for the next Kinetic Man retreat and the next house of our mastermind group. Finally, we always appreciate your love and support. Please share this episode and go rate us on your favorite podcast player of choice.
Thank you again. Now go take uncommon action.